I returned. Do you want me to tell the story?
Do.
Complete?
Well, briefly.
Sort of. Well, here was I, sort of really enjoying my life, writing my book. Actually, that was a different book. It's Swords and Plowshares. The month is, I can't remember. I think it must be sort of June or July. About a week before Gordon Brown took office, and suddenly there's in my pigeonhole when I arrived back was the little pink telephone slip which says the Chancellor, still Chancellor but about to be Prime Minister, would like to see you. I have to say that alarm bells started ringing in my head because there'd been much talk of the government of all the talents. The first thing I did was ring Ming Campbell and say, my leader, and say, look, the Chancellor wants to see me, what's all this about? And Ming said, you better come and see me because there's some things going on behind the scenes. I won't tell you the conversation that I had with Ming because it's in the book, but basically I said, I don't want you to read it and buy it, it's very cheap.
Which will be for sale afterwards and Paddy will
extraordinarily good price. Ming said to me, look, I have been having discussions, including Lib Dems playing some part with the government, most of them outside the government, like Shirley doing the job on nuclear proliferation, but we have discussed the possibility of you being in the government of Lib Dem actually serving in the cabinet. And I said, well, I think it's a very bad idea, Ming, because I don't think this is going to work. Because there's been no discussion about policy, above all there's been no discussion about things like PR and how you can work together. I said to him at the end, I'm really not in favour of this, but if you want me to go and see Gordon anyway, I'll go and see him. On the day that I went to see Gordon, the news broke in The Guardian that these talks had been going on. That appeared in the early morning broadcasts with Ming saying very clearly, I don't want this to happen. I do not want this to be, I don't mind us doing jobs outside government, I don't want a job inside the government, I don't want Lib Dems inside the government. I presume that Gordon people, I mean they do keep a pretty close eye on the press, would have picked that up and informed Gordon. So I rang his office that morning and said, look, do you really still want to see me? And to my surprise, they said yes. So I presumed what he wanted to do was suggest some other job that he wanted me to do, as it were, outside the government, which I'm already doing in Northern Ireland, trying to build peace between the Catholics and the Protestants. I'm doing that at the request of Peter Hain, but not as a member of the government. That would be perfectly acceptable to me. It's perfectly normal practice. However, I toddled along to see Gordon, came out from his office and went in and had about 40 minutes, maybe an hour, sitting in his office. Very quickly, he said, I'd like you to be Secretary of State for in my cabinet, for Northern Ireland. And I said, well, I don't see how I can do this, Gordon. Have you discussed this with my leader, Ming? Does he know you're seeing me today? And he said, no. And I said, so what basically you're doing is an end run around my leader to approach me. You know, if my leader asked me to do this, I would obviously listen, but I'd say I don't think it's a good idea. And he said, why? And I said, well, because, you know, what do you do with cabinet solidarity? You guys are about to mount another sustained attack on our civil liberties. You're about to extend a period of detention without trial to 92 days. That's something which I do oppose, my party oppose, I continue to oppose. What would you expect me to do in cabinet under those circumstances? And he said, well, could you keep quiet? And I said, no, I don't think I could keep quiet. He said, well, you know, in Northern Ireland, so it's kind of separated from government anyway, and you're a Lord, so it's kind of separated from your party. So I'm sure you can. I said, I don't think you can do this, and I don't think you've thought it through. And by the way, I don't think he had thought it through. On a number of grounds. First of all, I mean, there was Gordon sitting next door, number 10, scratching at the wallpaper to get through the wall for the previous 10 years. I know that he had worked out to the last detail everything he was going to do, but I actually do think the only rational explanation for this very curious proposition, which was clearly not thought through, and by the way, not preceded by any contacts. I mean, if I'd have been in that position, his position, I wanted to get somebody to come in, I wouldn't have risked bringing them into my office and being humiliated with a no answer. I'd have reached out and see if I could find, you know, whether or not he would be considering. You'd have done a little bit of preparation for this. So my conclusion, but history will tell, is that, like a week before, he suddenly saw, funnily enough, he said to me, but Bernard Kouchner, your friend Bernard Kouchner has said yes to Sarkozy. And I said, yeah, but I'm not Bernard Kouchner, Gordon.